Welcome to the world of daily life stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy listening. The journey begins. Olivia James adjusted her shoulder strap, pulling her carry-on bag smoothly across the polished floors of the airport terminal. The early morning light bathed the space in a golden hue, giving a surreal calm to a typically bustling environment. Beside her, her 6-year-old daughter, Lila, skipped along with endless energy. Lila's pigtails bobbed with each step, and her ever-present stuffed giraffe, Spots, dangled from her small hand. "Mom, look at the airplanes," Lila exclaimed, her voice a mix of wonder and excitement as she pressed her nose to the window, her breath fogging the glass. "We'll be on one of those soon," Olivia said with a smile, gently tugging her daughter's hand to keep her moving. She couldn't help but feel a flicker of pride watching Lila, her brown eyes shining with unbridled enthusiasm. Lila was her world, her motivation for every late night and grueling shift as a pediatric surgeon. As they approached the entrance to the first-class lounge, Olivia noted the glances. It wasn't new to her. She had grown accustomed to the silent, questioning stares, the surprise when she confidently handed over her first-class ticket. Dressed in a crisp navy blazer and tailored pants, her hair in flawless shoulder-length twists, Olivia carried herself with an air of poise that defied assumptions. The attendant at the lounge desk scanned Olivia's ticket and smiled politely. "Welcome, Miss James. Enjoy your stay." Olivia nodded, her smile polite but guarded. She guided Lila inside, taking in the serene atmosphere, a far cry from the noise of the terminal. She exhaled softly. This trip was supposed to be a reprieve, a reward for both herself and Lila. They had spent months planning this getaway, a rare opportunity for quality time. "Mom, can I have a hot chocolate?" Lila asked, pointing toward the self-serve beverage station. Her big brown eyes sparkled with hope. "Of course, sweetie," Olivia replied, chuckling softly. "But remember, no spills on your new outfit, okay?" Layla nodded solemnly, her tiny hands clutching her giraffe as she made her way to the counter. Olivia watched her daughter with a warm smile, savoring the simple joy of the moment. She took a seat in one of the plush chairs, her body sinking gratefully into its comfort. She glanced at her reflection in the window, momentarily distracted by her thoughts. The tailored blazer and neat twists were a testament to years of navigating professional spaces where she often felt the need to prove herself twice over. She straightened her posture, a subconscious habit, a shield against the judgment she had learned to anticipate. "Mom, look, marshmallows." Lila's voice brought her back to the present. Olivia turned to see her daughter carefully balancing her hot chocolate, her expression one of intense concentration. "You're doing great, Lila." "Almost there," Olivia encouraged, suppressing a laugh as Lila walked as if balancing a fragile treasure. The peaceful moment was interrupted by a pointed cough. Olivia looked up to see a woman, impeccably dressed in a cream-colored suit, standing a few feet away. Her gaze flitted between Olivia and Lila, a tight smile plastered on her face. "Excuse me," the woman began, her tone polite but edged with something sharper. "Are you the nanny?" Olivia blinked, momentarily taken aback. She felt the familiar prick of indignation rise, but masked it with the calm demeanor she had perfected over the years. Lila, oblivious to the tension, plopped down beside Olivia, sipping her hot chocolate contentedly. "No," Olivia replied evenly, her voice steady. "I'm her mother." The woman's smile faltered for a moment before she quickly recovered. "Oh, of course," she said with an overly saccharine laugh. "You just looked so professional, and I assumed, well, never mind." Olivia's fingers tightened around the armrest of her chair, but she kept her expression neutral. "It's okay," she said, though it wasn't. She turned her attention back to Layla, who was now engrossed in a game on her tablet, blissfully unaware of the exchange. The woman lingered awkwardly before walking away. Olivia exhaled slowly, willing herself to let go of the sting of the encounter. It wasn't the first time, and she knew it wouldn't be the last. But she had promised herself long ago not to let these moments define her. She had worked too hard, achieved too much, to be diminished by someone else's narrow view. A man seated across the lounge, who had witnessed the interaction, gave Olivia an encouraging nod. "Some people just can't mind their business, huh?" he said, offering a small, empathetic smile. Olivia returned the smile, her defenses softening. "It's nothing new," she admitted, "but it's still exhausting." The man chuckled ruefully. "Well, for what it's worth, you handled it with grace." "Thank you," Olivia replied, appreciating the solidarity, however brief. She turned back to Layla, who was now holding up her tablet to show Olivia her latest masterpiece, a colorful digital drawing of their family, complete with Spots the giraffe. "Look, Mom, it's us," Layla beamed. "It's beautiful, Layla," Olivia said, her heart swelling with love. In that moment, nothing else mattered. As they prepared to board their flight, Olivia silently vowed that this trip would be about them, mother and daughter, carving out joy and memories in a world that didn't always see them for who they were. And in her own quiet way, Olivia knew she would continue to challenge the assumptions, one graceful response at a time. High expectations, low altitudes. The boarding call came over the intercom, and Olivia took Lila's hand as they made their way to the gate. Lila skipped ahead, tugging her mother along with all the excitement a 6-year-old could muster. Passengers were already queuing, and Olivia noticed the subtle double takes as they approached the first-class line. She held her head high, letting the years of confidence she'd worked hard to build shield her from the stares. "Good morning, Miss James," the gate attendant said, scanning their boarding passes. Her tone was polite, but laced with an edge of surprise, as though she hadn't expected to see Olivia and Lila stepping into the premium cabin. Olivia smiled coolly, ushering Lila through the narrow jetway. "Good morning." Inside the plane, the cabin was an oasis of comfort. Plush seats stretched out with ample legroom, and attendants moved swiftly, placing bottled water and blankets on each seat. Olivia helped Layla into her seat by the window before stowing their carry-on bags in the overhead bin. As she settled into her own seat, she took a deep breath, ready to enjoy a rare moment of luxury. Layla was already pressed against the window, her face alight with curiosity as she watched the ground crew below. "Mom, look, they're loading the bags. I can see ours." Olivia laughed softly. "You've got sharp eyes, sweetie." As more passengers filed into the cabin, Olivia became aware of the covert glances and murmurs around her. Some passengers did double takes. Others tried to mask their curiosity with polite smiles. It wasn't until a flight attendant approached that the simmering tension began to boil over. "Ma'am," the flight attendant began, her voice low but firm, "this section is reserved for first-class passengers." Olivia blinked, momentarily caught off guard. "I'm aware," she replied, her voice calm but pointed. She reached into her bag and retrieved her ticket, handing it over with practiced ease. The attendant glanced at the ticket, her expression shifting from skepticism to mild embarrassment. "Oh, my apologies, Miss James," she said quickly. "I'll bring you and your daughter some refreshments." Olivia nodded, her jaw tightening as the attendant hurried away. She glanced at Layla, who was now engrossed in a safety brochure, and felt a pang of gratitude that her daughter was too distracted to notice the exchange. "Excuse me," came a voice from across the aisle. Olivia turned to see an older man in a tailored suit leaning slightly toward her. His expression was one of genuine curiosity, though it carried an undertone that made Olivia's defenses rise. "Yes?" Olivia asked, keeping her tone neutral. "I couldn't help but notice how well put together you are," the man began. "Are you in the fashion industry? Or perhaps entertainment?" Olivia fought the urge to sigh. "I'm a pediatric surgeon," she said simply. The man blinked, clearly caught off guard. "A surgeon? That's impressive," he said after a moment, his tone shifting to one of approval. "You must be very talented." "I'd like to think so," Olivia replied, returning her attention to Layla, who was now arranging her blanket and stuffed giraffe for takeoff. The man leaned back in his seat, murmuring something under his breath that Olivia couldn't quite catch. She chose to ignore it, focusing instead on the moments of peace she could carve out for herself and her daughter. As the plane taxied and lifted off the ground, Olivia felt the familiar mix of exhilaration and anticipation that came with flying. Lila's squeals of delight made her smile, and for a while she let herself relax, soaking in the joy of her daughter's innocence. The first hour of the flight passed smoothly. Olivia and Lila shared a snack tray, and Olivia began reading a book she'd been meaning to finish for months. It wasn't until the meal service began that the day took another turn. A different flight attendant approached with a tray of food, her expression polite but hesitant. "Miss James," she said, glancing between Olivia and Lila, "we have your meal here. But there seems to be some confusion about the child's meal." Olivia arched an eyebrow. What kind of confusion? "Well, the system didn't indicate a child's meal for this seat," the attendant explained, her eyes darting nervously to the passengers around them. It was marked as an adult passenger. Olivia took a slow breath, willing herself to remain composed. She's 6 years old. Clearly, there's been an oversight. "I'll fix it right away," the attendant said quickly, backing away with the tray. From the row behind them, Olivia caught a whispered comment. They'd probably upgraded her at the last minute. She turned her head slightly, catching the speaker's eye. It was a woman with perfectly coiffed blonde hair and an air of entitlement. The woman looked away quickly, but Olivia didn't miss the smirk on her face. Olivia sat back in her seat, her mind racing. She could feel the weight of the assumptions pressing down on her, the unspoken questions that hung in the air around her. But she refused to let them define her. Instead, she focused on Layla, who was now drawing in her coloring book, blissfully unaware of the undercurrents. When the flight attendant returned with Lila's meal, Olivia thanked her with a smile, her voice calm and measured. She knew that every response she gave was a reflection not just of herself, but of the countless women like her who faced similar challenges. As Lila dug into her food, Olivia turned back to her book, though her focus wavered. She could feel eyes on her, hear the murmurs that followed her every move. But she reminded herself of the bigger picture, the example she was setting for her daughter. By the time the flight began its descent, Olivia felt a mixture of relief and resolve. This journey, she realized, wasn't just about getting to their destination. It was about navigating the obstacles along the way with grace and strength. As the plane touched down and the passengers began to disembark, Olivia held Lila's hand tightly, her heart swelling with love and determination. Together, they would face whatever came next, knowing that their bond was unbreakable and their story far from over. Arrival and a clash of worlds. The warm tropical air greeted Olivia and Lila as they stepped out of the airport terminal and into the bustling resort town. Palm trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore provided a soothing backdrop. Olivia exhaled deeply, allowing herself a moment to appreciate the vibrant surroundings. It was a stark contrast to the cool, sterile hallways of the hospital she had just left behind. Layla tugged on her hand, her excitement palpable. "Mom, look at the flowers. They're so big." Olivia followed her daughter's gaze to the colorful bougainvillea climbing up the resort's walls. "Aren't they beautiful? Just like you," she said, brushing a strand of hair away from Lila's face. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, and a uniformed driver stepped out, opening the door with a smile. "Welcome, Miss James," he said, taking their luggage. "I'll be taking you to the resort." "Thank you," Olivia replied, helping Lila into the back seat. As the car wound its way through the scenic coastal roads, Olivia marveled at the ocean views. This vacation was meant to be a reset, a chance to leave behind the pressures of her job and the subtle, relentless challenges of being one of the few Black women in her field. For once, she wanted to focus on nothing but Lila and the memories they would create together. When they arrived at the resort, Olivia was struck by its grandeur. The sprawling property boasted pristine gardens, infinity pools that seemed to merge with the ocean, and staff who greeted them with lace and refreshing drinks. Lila twirled in delight, her face lighting up as she spotted the children's play area. "Mom, can we go there first?" Lila pleaded, pointing at a large splash pad complete with water slides and fountains. "Soon, sweetheart. Let's check in and get settled first," Olivia said, gently guiding Lila toward the reception area. Inside, the air was cool and filled with the soft hum of activity. Olivia approached the front desk, handing over her reservation details. The receptionist, a young woman with a polished appearance, smiled brightly. "Welcome to the Paradise Cove Resort, Miss James. I see you've booked an ocean view suite for you and your daughter. One moment while I finalize your check-in." As Olivia waited, she felt a familiar unease creeping in. Other guests passed by, their gazes lingering a beat too long. Some smiled warmly, while others appeared to be sizing her up, as if trying to reconcile her presence in such a luxurious space. The receptionist's smile faltered slightly as she clicked through the reservation system. Miss James," she began hesitantly, "I just want to confirm. Are you sure this is the right booking? It's a premium suite." Olivia raised an eyebrow, her patience wearing thin. "Yes, it's correct. Is there a problem?" "Oh, no problem at all," the receptionist said quickly, her cheeks flushing. "I'll have someone escort you to your suite." "Thank you," Olivia replied, her tone cool. She glanced down at Layla, who was too busy admiring a large aquarium in the lobby to notice the exchange. Olivia reminded herself to stay composed. She wasn't going to let anyone tarnish their experience. A young bellhop appeared, his energy cheerful as he led them to their suite. "You're going to love this room, ma'am," he said, unlocking the door and pushing it open. "The view is spectacular." He wasn't exaggerating. The suite was spacious and elegantly decorated, with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed a breathtaking view of the ocean. Lila ran to the balcony, pressing her hands against the glass in awe. "Mom, the ocean is right there. Can we go swimming?" "In a little bit, sweetie," Olivia said, tipping the bellhop and closing the door behind him. She took a moment to breathe, allowing the tension from earlier to dissipate. This was why she had come, to create moments like these, where the world's judgment couldn't reach them. Later that evening, Olivia and Layla explored the resort, eventually settling at one of the beachfront restaurants for dinner. The setting was idyllic, with tiki torches casting a warm glow and the sound of the ocean providing a natural symphony. Olivia watched Layla devour her pasta with gusto, a small smile playing on her lips. "Mom, can I have dessert?" Lila asked, her face smeared with marinara sauce. "Of course, but let's clean you up first," Olivia said, pulling a napkin from the table. As they waited for dessert, Olivia became aware of a nearby table where a group of well-dressed families had gathered. Their laughter and conversation filled the air, but Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that she and Lila were being observed. She glanced over and caught one of the women staring. The woman quickly averted her gaze, but not before offering a tight-lipped smile. "Excuse me," the woman said, approaching their table. She was tall and impeccably dressed, with an air of practiced charm. "I couldn't help but notice your daughter. She's absolutely adorable." "Thank you," Olivia replied, her tone polite but guarded. The woman hesitated before continuing. "You must be her nanny. You're so attentive with her." Olivia's chest tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. "Actually, I'm her mother," she said firmly. The woman's eyes widened slightly, her composure slipping for a fraction of a second. "Oh, I see," she said quickly, her voice flustered. "You're very lucky to be here. It's such a beautiful place for children." Olivia felt the weight of the woman's words, the unspoken assumptions hanging heavy in the air. Before she could respond, a man from the woman's table called out, "Come on, Rachel, leave the poor woman alone." Rachel turned back to her group, laughing nervously. "I was just being friendly," she said, retreating to her seat. Olivia took a deep breath, her hand instinctively reaching for Lila's. Her daughter looked up, sensing her mother's unease. "Mom, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetie," Olivia said, squeezing her hand. "Let's enjoy our dessert." The waiter arrived with a plate of chocolate lava cake, and Lila's eyes lit up as she dug in. Olivia smiled, determined to focus on the joy in front of her. But as the evening wore on, she couldn't shake the lingering frustration. Back in their suite, after Lila had fallen asleep, Olivia stood on the balcony, staring out at the moonlit ocean. She thought about the day, the stares, the assumptions, the constant microaggressions that had followed her from the airport to the resort. She had worked so hard to reach this point in her life, yet it felt like she was always being questioned, always having to prove herself. But as she looked back into the room, seeing Lila's peaceful face as she hugged her stuffed giraffe, Olivia felt a renewed sense of purpose. This trip wasn't just about escaping the challenges of her everyday life. It was about reclaiming her space in a world that often tried to deny it to her. She whispered a quiet vow to herself. "No matter what, I'll show her how strong we are." With that, Olivia closed the balcony door and climbed into bed, ready for whatever the next day would bring, a test of grace and strength. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the suite's sheer curtains, bathing the room in a warm glow. Olivia stretched, savoring the rare luxury of waking up without an alarm clock or a pager buzzing. Across the room, Lila was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the bed with her stuffed giraffe, Spots, animatedly chatting as if he were a close friend. "Good morning, sweetheart," Olivia said, her voice still groggy. "Good morning, Mom," Lila replied, her face lighting up. "Spots says we should go to the beach today." Olivia laughed, ruffling her daughter's hair. "I think Spots has a great idea. Let's get dressed and head out." The resort's private beach was every bit as stunning as Olivia had hoped. Crystal clear waves lapped gently at the shore, and the soft white sand felt cool underfoot. Lila squealed with delight as she darted toward the water, her tiny feet kicking up sand. Olivia followed, carrying a brightly colored beach bag filled with towels, sunscreen, and snacks. For a while, Olivia allowed herself to relax, watching Lila build an elaborate sandcastle while chatting with other children nearby. Olivia leaned back in her beach chair, the rhythmic sound of the waves soothing her. It felt like the first time in months that she could truly let her guard down. But the moment didn't last long. A pair of women, dressed in expensive cover-ups and oversized sunglasses, strolled past Olivia's chair. She could feel their eyes on her, their whispered conversation just loud enough to reach her ears. "Do you think she's here with one of the families?" one of them murmured. "Maybe," the other replied, "but she's sitting alone. It's odd, isn't it?" Olivia closed her eyes briefly, willing herself to remain calm. She had no intention of letting their idle gossip ruin her day. But before she could fully compose herself, one of the women turned to her with a saccharine smile. "Hi there," the woman said, her tone dripping with folks' friendliness. "Are you watching the kids for someone? They seem to be having such a wonderful time." Olivia opened her eyes, meeting the woman's gaze head-on. "No," she said evenly. "I'm here with my daughter." The woman blinked, clearly not expecting the response. "Oh, I see. Well, how lovely for you," she said, her tone faltering before she hurried off with her companion. Olivia sighed, her fingers tightening around the armrest of her chair. She glanced toward Leila, who was now running up to her with a handful of seashells. "Look, Mom, I found these for you." "They're beautiful, Lila," Olivia said, smiling as she admired her daughter's collection. "Let's keep them safe so we can take them home." Later that afternoon, the resort hosted a family sandcastle competition. Olivia hesitated when Lila begged her to enter, unsure if she had the energy to deal with more judgmental stares. But Lila's excitement was contagious, and Olivia ultimately couldn't say no. The beach was abuzz with activity as families gathered to create their masterpieces. Olivia knelt in the sand beside Layla, her blazer swapped for a casual sundress, and together they began constructing an elaborate castle complete with towers, moats, and tiny shell decorations. Other families worked nearby, their creations equally impressive. One family, in particular, seemed determined to dominate the competition. They were led by a tall man with salt and pepper hair and a booming voice that carried across the beach. His wife and 2 teenage children worked methodically, their castle rivaling something out of a fairy tale. As the contest progressed, Olivia noticed the man watching her and Lila. His gaze was calculating, as though he couldn't quite place her. When the contest ended and the judges began their rounds, he approached her, his expression unreadable. "Your castle is quite impressive," he said, nodding toward their creation. "Thank you," Olivia replied, brushing sand off her hands. He hesitated for a moment before extending his hand. "I'm Daniel Whittaker. I couldn't help but notice how meticulous your work is. Are you in architecture?" Olivia shook his hand firmly. "No, I'm a pediatric surgeon." Daniel's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "A surgeon? That's impressive," he said, though his tone carried a hint of skepticism. Before Olivia could respond, Lila tugged on her arm. "Mom, look, the judges are coming." The judges, a trio of resort staff members, inspected each sandcastle with enthusiasm. When they reached Olivia and Lila's creation, one of them, a middle-aged woman with a clipboard, clapped her hands. "This is fantastic. The details are incredible." Olivia smiled, kneeling beside Lila. She had a great vision, she said, ruffling her daughter's hair. When the winners were announced, Olivia and Lila were shocked to hear their names called. Lila jumped up and down, her laughter echoing across the beach as they received their prize, a gift certificate for a private sunset cruise. As they posed for a photo, Olivia caught sight of Daniel, who offered her a small, begrudging nod. It wasn't much, but it felt like a victory. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Olivia and Layla boarded a small yacht for their prize cruise. The ocean sparkled under the fading light, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of salt and freedom. Layla leaned over the railing, her eyes wide with wonder as dolphins leaped in the distance. "Mom, this is the best day ever," she said, turning to Olivia with a radiant smile. Olivia pulled her daughter close, her heart full. "I think so too, sweetie." As the boat glided across the water, Olivia reflected on the events of the day. The challenges she faced weren't new, but they no longer felt insurmountable. With every assumption she challenged, every stare she met head-on, she was carving out a space not just for herself, but for Lila too. A space where they could exist unapologetically and without limits. This trip, Olivia realized, was more than just a vacation. It was a testament to their resilience, a reminder that grace and strength could conquer even the most deeply rooted prejudices. And as the stars began to dot the night sky, Olivia felt a quiet but powerful sense of triumph, a powerful moment of recognition. The final days of Olivia and Lila's vacation unfolded like a series of cherished memories. Afternoons spent splashing in the ocean, evenings savoring decadent desserts, and moments of quiet joy under the vast tropical sky. Yet, beneath the serene rhythm of their trip, Olivia could feel the undercurrent of unspoken challenges, moments that had tested her resolve. The resort had planned a farewell banquet on their last night, an elegant event held in a grand open-air pavilion overlooking the ocean. The atmosphere was festive, with live music, fairy lights strung across the trees, and tables adorned with flowers. Guests were encouraged to wear their finest attire, and Olivia decided to make the evening special for both herself and Lila. Olivia stood in front of the mirror in their suite, adjusting the straps of her flowing emerald green dress. It was a rare indulgence, one she'd purchased for herself during a particularly grueling week at the hospital. The dress hugged her frame perfectly, the color complementing her deep brown skin. Her twists were pinned up into an elegant style, with a few strands framing her face. Behind her, Lila twirled in a lavender dress that puffed out like a cloud, her pigtails tied with matching ribbons. "Mom, do I look like a princess?" she asked, holding out her arms dramatically. "The most beautiful princess," Olivia said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "Are you ready to show everyone how amazing we are?" "Ready," Lila declared, grabbing Spots, her trusty stuffed giraffe, before they left the room. The pavilion was abuzz with energy as guests mingled, waitstaff wove through the crowd with trays of appetizers, and a jazz band played softly in the background. Olivia and Leila were greeted warmly by the staff, who escorted them to a prime table near the center of the event. Olivia noticed Daniel Whitaker and his family seated at a nearby table. His wife offered a polite smile, though it was laced with curiosity, while Daniel gave Olivia a small nod of acknowledgement. For once, there was no condescension in his gaze, just genuine respect. As the evening progressed, the resort's manager took the stage, a microphone in hand. "Good evening, everyone," he began, his voice carrying over the gentle hum of conversation. "Tonight, we want to celebrate not just the beauty of this resort, but also the incredible stories of the guests who've graced us with their presence. This evening, we've decided to honor one of those stories." Olivia's interest was piqued as the manager continued. "This guest embodies resilience, grace, and the ability to inspire everyone around her. Her story reminds us that determination and heart can create waves of change." There was a pause, and then the manager's eyes found Olivia in the crowd. "Dr. Olivia James, would you please join us on stage?" For a moment, Olivia was stunned. She glanced at Leila, whose eyes were wide with excitement. "Mom, that's you," Leila whispered, tugging at her hand. Olivia stood slowly, her heart pounding as she made her way to the stage. The crowd parted for her, murmurs rippling through the room. When she reached the stage, the manager extended a hand to help her up. "Dr. James," he began, smiling warmly, "we've learned about your extraordinary achievements and the challenges you've overcome to get here. As a single mother and a trailblazing pediatric surgeon, you are an inspiration not just to your daughter, but to all of us." Olivia's throat tightened, but she managed a small smile as the audience erupted into applause. She felt the warmth of their recognition, a stark contrast to the quiet skepticism and assumptions she had faced throughout her stay. "We'd like to present you with a token of our appreciation," the manager continued, holding out a small, elegant box. Inside was a pendant shaped like a starfish, encrusted with tiny diamonds. The starfish represents resilience and renewal, qualities you exemplify every day. Olivia accepted the box, her hands trembling slightly. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady despite the emotions welling up inside her. She glanced down at Leila, who was beaming proudly from their table. "This means so much to me, not just as a recognition of my journey, but as a reminder of the example I want to set for my daughter." The applause swelled, and as Olivia stepped off the stage, she felt a surge of confidence and pride. She returned to her seat, where Leila threw her arms around her. "Mom, you're famous now," Leila declared, giggling. As the night wore on, Olivia noticed a change in the way other guests interacted with her. Strangers approached her table to offer their congratulations, their words filled with genuine admiration. Even Daniel Whitaker stopped by, extending his hand once more. "Dr. James," he said, his tone respectful, "I owe you an apology for underestimating you. Your story is remarkable, and it's clear that your daughter is lucky to have you as her role model." Olivia shook his hand, her smile gracious but firm. "Thank you," she said simply. She didn't need validation from anyone, but she appreciated the gesture. Back in their suite, as Olivia helped Leila change into her pajamas, she reflected on the night. The recognition she had received wasn't just about her accomplishments. It was about breaking barriers, challenging perceptions, and showing Leila that they belonged in every space they chose to inhabit. As Leila drifted off to sleep, clutching Spots tightly, Olivia stepped out onto the balcony. The ocean stretched endlessly before her, its waves shimmering under the moonlight. She felt a profound sense of peace and purpose, knowing that she was paving the way for a future where Leila wouldn't have to fight so hard to be seen. Her phone buzzed, a text from one of her colleagues back home. "We miss you, Dr. James. Hope you're enjoying some well-deserved time off." Olivia smiled, her resolve solidified. This trip had been a reminder of who she was, a mother, a surgeon, a force to be reckoned with, and nothing could dim that light. As she slipped back into the room and curled up beside Layla, she whispered, "We did it, sweetie, and there's so much more to come." And in the quiet comfort of that moment, Olivia knew they were ready for whatever came next.